What's going on?
We're getting ready to hike Highlander again.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. We're in Montana, Kalispell to be specific.
We're not going skiing.
We're not going skiing, we're going hiking.
Yeah.
Because there's no snow.
Yeah.
And it would be weird if
Hopefully
we tried
there's
to ski.
no snow.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
There is some maybe forecasted. We'll see. It's chilly. But we are here to do the Hercules Highlander format. So we are doing about 60 miles in 5 days through Flathead National Forest. And I'm speaking on night 3 at Lake Mary Ronan about whatever we decide to talk about, because I'm gonna pull this all together based on what we got going on here in Montana and what we do, and connect all the dots and just make it epic for everybody. So
You just make it sound like you're gonna pull it out your butt.
I'm winging it.
You've been working on
I
this
know.
for about a week now.
Yeah.
We wake up every morning and we're like, so okay, let's go through the talking.
Yeah.
Let's add this in.
Yeah.
Maybe not talk about that. We'll
Come
see.
on, man. It sounds cooler if I like nail it and it sounds like I winged it.
Okay, well, she's winging it.
Yeah, no, I'm very rehearsed and I'm very ready.
Polished.
Polished. Hi, let's all take a big deep breath. That was a huge day. Wow, holy smokes. My name is Sydney Williams. I am an author. I'm the founder of Hiking My Feelings. I am whoa, I might cry. This is exciting. I am an instructor at the Desert Institute at Joshua Tree National Park. I am also an instructor at the Field Institute at Sequoia National Park. I am a facilitator and founding member of the Outdoorist Oath, which, if you aren't familiar, is an amazing organization that prioritizes the planet, inclusion, and adventure. And I think that's it for things to rattle off about me. But 6 years ago today, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And if you told me on the day that I got that phone call, and I literally thought I could never eat bread again, that I would be hiking 60 miles to celebrate, I would have thought, like, that's kind of cool, but like, how? But I would have believed it. But before I get into my story with Tomas, bread and butter on just excellent opening and setting the stage for what I'm about to talk about. Who is here for their first ever backpacking trip? Okay, wow, y'all are badasses. And we got another first timer here. For everybody else, was your first backpacking trip 60 miles? No? Okay, let's give it up for everybody, especially the first timers and yourselves. Yes. So today I'm going to tell you the story of how hiking across Catalina Island helped me heal my mind and body and ultimately save my life. Has anybody here backpacked across Catalina before? Awesome, then you know the brutality. What up? If you are unfamiliar, Catalina Island is an island off the coast of Los Angeles, California. And the Trans-Catalina Trail spans 38.5 miles from tip to tip across the island. So it sounds pretty nice, and it is. It was a great first backpacking trip. They have running water at every campsite. The ones that don't, they bring you water. The campsites are designated, so it's not like you're hiking and then trying to find some place to sleep, like you know where you're sleeping. So it kind of takes a lot of the what ifs out of backpacking, much like Highlander does, right? Like, this is a really cool opportunity for your first backpacking trip, to have your food provided, to be surrounded by people, to never be days away from help. And the Trans-Catalina Trail is kind of the same thing. So before I talk about the 2 hikes that I went on, I kind of want to talk about the mindset I was in before I got there. Because before my first hike, which was my first backpacking trip ever, was on the TCT, I had been through 2 of the most hellish years of my life. So I'm just going to rattle off some stuff so we can all kind of get in the zone that I was in. So that hike was in 2016. So if we're backing up to 2014, in January 2014, my friend Chris, who was a U.S. Army veteran, high intelligence officer, spoke multiple languages, did tours through Iraq, just one of the greatest, brightest lights of my life, took his own life. As I think now it's 1 in 20 veterans every day on average take their own life. My friend Chris did that at the beginning of 2014, and I was like, okay, this sucks, here we go. Later that year, my Uncle Mike, who had previously beaten brain cancer, had it come back and take his life. At the time, I was on a competitive skydiving team, and my teammate had sustained a season-ending injury. So I was like, now I don't have anything to do that's fun. And later that year, my best friend Adam went on a base jumping trip in Idaho, and he didn't make it home. He died on a base jumping trip. So I was just like in it, and I didn't know what to do. I ended up retiring from skydiving at the end of 2014. In 2015, I wasn't quite done. I wanted to prove that like I still had something in me. I wasn't jumping out of planes anymore, but I started hosting events in skydiving, and then I hated that and I stopped. But then I went back to my big girl corporate job. I was a corporate marketer. I was working with NBC Universal at the time in an agency setting. So I was doing that. I was leading a commercial campaign. I was like corporate America baddie with her big girl salary. And I had the week off between Christmas and New Year's. And so if any of you guys work like jobs where you get paid time off and you work in client services, then you know sometimes you're checking email on vacation. This agency was shut down the week that we were gone, and I was like, I want to just get off the grid and do something cool. My husband Barry, which there's Barry, hey Barry, he grew up in New Hampshire. He's the outdoorsy one of the two of us. He was like, hey, let's go backpacking. And I was like, sweet, sounds rad. What do I need? So we went to REI in Encinitas. I traded my paycheck for a backpack full of gear. And I don't know if this might be a both genders kind of thing, but ladies in particular, shopping for me prior to this experience is a very traumatic experience. I nitpick my body and I'm like, oh, if I stopped eating pizza, my butt would look better, whatever. But this time in this dressing room, like I didn't recognize the body I was in. I was a competitive skydiver for 4 years. I was on the women's rowing team at the University of Kansas. Like I've been an athlete most of my life. But those 2 years and the years prior were really hard. So I was about 80 pounds heavier than I was today before my first backpacking trip. And I went in, and I grabbed the biggest sizes that they had, and I was like Jimmy squeezing like a sausage into this pants. And I was like, this sucks. And they were like snap pants, and I thought, I like had this visual of like the snap busting on the trail, hitting Barry in the eye, and now we're blind in the backcountry, and it's all. So fortunately, that didn't happen. So I'm like sausage girl, fat girl, little coat, getting ready for my first backpacking trip. And I looked at myself and I was like, girl, like, how did we get here? And I wasn't judging myself and I wasn't nasty. I was just like really curious, like what the happened? Like I was a D1 athlete and now I'm this, like, what is this? And so I kind of went into this trip thinking like, what if I just honored my inner athlete? Like, what if I just like, got back into that mindset, and from this hike moving forward, like this could be a catalyst for change in my life. So I go and I'm getting prepped. And by prepped, I mean, I'm not training at all. In fact, pro tip, you should have known this. Sorry, I didn't tell you. Wearing your hiking boots at your standing desk is not the same as breaking them in. Just for the record. You are all seasoned hikers. Usually I give this talk for somebody that's never been backpacking before and they're like, got it. Okay, great. But I didn't know that. So a quarter mile into this adventure, I got my first blister, 6-day trip. So great. So we're on the TCT the first time. And I have no idea what to expect. I've barely been hiking, and I certainly haven't been backpacking. And I had a Cheryl Strayed moment where she like chucks her boot. I was like, I'm gonna just chuck this backpack. This sucks. That was the blister moment, a quarter mile in. So we're going, and it's awful. Like by the time we get through it, like my feet are like ground beef, and I can't walk right. But the thing that got me was like, oh, I really like this. And my mind is clear, and I'm not really thinking about anything else other than the physical brutality of this hike, but it's better than all the shit I've been thinking about leading up to this. So it was the first step where I was like, okay, this is fun, and I don't want my body to be the thing that's getting in the way. Like I want to do more of this, and I want to have a good time. So it's like, okay, what's next? You know what's next? Type 2 diabetes. Okay, what? So I get off the trail, and the first like handful of days after getting off the trail were brutal. For you first timers, being out here in the wilderness, it can be physically difficult, and then you're in this community which feels great, and then you go home and you're like, I just had everything I needed to survive on my back. What am I doing with my life, right? Seasoned people, have we been there? Post-trail blues, it sucks. Okay, great. So 9 months after this first backpacking trip, the effects of the backpacking trip are still there. The first thing that I learned, I can do hard things. I climbed up some gnarly climbs with blister covered feet, and I felt like a total boss. And I learned sometimes in life and on the trail, all you can do is put one foot in front of the other. Left foot, right foot. Like I literally had to drag this leg up a mountain and sing right foot, left foot to myself. It was wild. So I still have this experience, and I'm like in this like wilderness goddess zone, and I'm like, what is possible? I love hiking, except I didn't do anything. Like I went back and just sat on my butt. But then I got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes 6 years ago today. So what do? I stop acting like a 12-year-old boy. I stop eating frozen pizza and Ben & Jerry's for breakfast, and I get some more vegetables in my body. And then I take my medications because the doctors are great and they give me some. And then I was like, I'm gonna start walking around my neighborhood. And we had this hill of death. It was a canyon walk. It was like maybe a mile, but it felt like hell. And it took me a long time to get used to that. But once I got used to that, then I was like, I'm gonna go do big girl trails like a boss lady. So I did. And then over the course of a handful of months, I was dropping a bunch of pounds. And over the course of 9 months, I reversed my diabetes just by walking and not, thank you. And it's over, that's the story. No, but like, it was a really like those morning walks, and then eventually my hikes were like my time for myself. I didn't wake up and scroll, I woke up and walked. I didn't wake up and check email, I woke up and I took a walk. And I became very protective of that time, and what I realized was, wow, one, I'm pretty fun. Like, I'm a cool person. And like, I kind of like hanging out with myself. That's new. And also, what is up with this new body that's hotter than the one I had in college? Hello, hiking is awesome. So I was like, this is sweet. So then I'm in the midst of my corporate, grandeur, whatever, fat paychecks, cushy benefits, and limited time off. And diabetes was like, stress is a big part of this disease. You got to figure this out. So I was like, if I can't quit my job, or if I can't like figure out how to make this less stressful, and corporate communications is not the thing, I was like, okay, I'll join my friend's startup. Startup workers, anybody? No? Okay. Startup life, not a stress reducer. It's just, I knew that, but like I thought if I gave a shit about the work I was doing, then maybe the stress would be worth it. It wasn't. I was chief marketing officer for 95 days, enough days to get a business card and put it on my LinkedIn. And I was like, I'm out. I can't do this. I had panic attacks twice a day, every day for like 2 or 3 weeks. I was like, I can't do this. My blood sugar levels started going back up. I kind of gave you the spoiler on the reversing, but it's fine. It's happy birthday to me. So I, in the span of 5 months, quit 2 jobs. So now I'm a newly diagnosed, now uninsured diabetic with no money whatsoever. And I'm on the top of this mountain outside of San Diego. It's called Cushy Pie, also known as Stonewall Peak. And I'm standing there. And okay, I'm going to be real honest. I don't think anybody ever comes out and says, I want to be an influencer. But I was like, I'm unemployed and I got nothing. So I'm going to get up to the top of this mountain, which is promising 360-degree views of San Diego County. And I'm going to influence. I'm going to kill the internet. I'm going to be the nature goddess you've never known that was coming. Except it was socked in. I couldn't even see in front of my face. And so I was like, my dreams of breaking the internet are over. So what do I have to do? I have to be with myself. Okay. And the thing was, I was like kind of feeling it. And I was like, this kind of feels like I'm relaxing after a yoga class. Like we're all in Savasana in the rain. I was like, I feel super chill. Why? I just quit 2 jobs in the span of 5 months, no insurance, no money coming in. Why am I so calm? And I was like, oh, my work that I do now taught me my first lesson before I even knew what it was. It's like when there's no view, look inside. Like if you don't have anything to look at, just enjoy the moment of being with yourself. And so I did that. And I was like, why am I so calm though? Like this literally makes no sense. I was like, oh. Well, before diabetes, I was eating and drinking my feelings. When it was sad, Ben & Jerry's for breakfast, bottle of wine to myself almost every night after work, more often than not. But I couldn't be a gold star earning diabetes patient if I didn't change my behavior. So I was like, oh, instead of eating and drinking my feelings, I'm hiking my feelings. Yay! And I was like, pat on the back, new coping mechanisms, I rule. And I was like, but that feels good. But like, why was I eating and drinking my feelings to begin with? Like, what is the impetus for all this stuff? And why am I carrying all this weight? And so I go on this journey, and now I've got 2 weeks before this Trans-Catalina Trail adventure. So the first one that I did, I learned a bunch of great lessons. I didn't finish it. It was raining, kind of like this. I blame it on the rain, but honestly, like my body just wasn't having it. So I tapped out at the end of the first one. But at the beginning of the second one, I was like, okay, 1, why was I eating and drinking my feelings to begin with? And 2, what would be possible if the hike itself wasn't the hard part? Much like we did today and we're going to do tomorrow. we've already done this hike, guys. We all got here. No matter what happened on the trail, we're all sitting here, and some of you are listening to me, which really makes me happy. But ultimately, we've all done this. And I was thinking to myself, like, I've already done most of this trail, and I was 60 pounds, 80 pounds heavier then. What's possible now if all I have to do is walk and like think about this question, like, why was I eating and drinking my feelings to begin with? So like, okay, TCT number 2, I'm coming for you. Here we go. So the first day, sobbing hysterically the whole time. Anybody else a crier on the trail? Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being honest. And if you're not, that's fine. Just hold it inside. Just remember those tears you've had. So I'm like, I don't know if you guys get violent with your crying, but I do. It's a full body experience. I am doubled over, barfing tears, snot running out of my face, like the ugliest cry you've ever ugly cried. But when I got to the like next part of the trail where we like take a little break, I take off my backpack, feel a little bit lighter, got a little pep in my step. That release of taking your backpack off the first time when you've been doing that all day, whew, that's nice, especially when you got that like emotional lift. I was like, okay, this is cool. What was I crying about? All of my dead friends. I mentioned that I was a skydiver for 4 years. In that 4 years, I stopped counting at 23 friends that died. 23. Imagine one grief cycle. That sucks. Imagine losing 23 friends in 4 years. I'm sure I'm not the only person that's lost a bunch of people at once, but my God, was it hard. So I was thinking, I was like, okay, I have never really had time to process this. So I'm thinking about like my favorite memories with these people. Who are they? What do they mean to me? How can I keep their stories alive? I told you about my friend Chris, told you about my friend Adam. I was really hoping we were going to get a banging sunset tonight because my friend Adam, after a day of jumping out of planes, we'd all stop what we're doing in the cornfields of Illinois to the mountains of Lake Elsinore, California. He'd be like, okay, everybody stop, look up. You only get so many sunsets, period. So every time I see a sunset, and I was really hoping to be lit up tonight, every time I see a sunset, I think of my friend Adam. And that's one way that I can share his story with you, and you can take that with you and enjoy a sunset the next one you get to see. So I'm hiking, and I'm crying. And Barry's like, you good? I'm like, yep, just hiking my feelings. It's fine. Just, so it's cool. So the first day, I'm like celebrating dead friends. The next day, I got this negative soundtrack in my head. Anybody else got this? This like, you're too fat, you're too old, all the things. Tomas was talking about the stories we tell ourselves. I firmly believe they come from one or two places. One, we tell ourselves some pretty nasty. But two, we hear it so often, whether that's bullies or parents or like people of authority that tell us these things. They're interpreting the world as they see it and telling us how to fit into it. And we're just trying to go with it. So I'm rattling, like I'm going up this really high mountain. Also, I don't know if any of you guys can relate to this. I've tried to work through pain and trauma and all that. Before I started hiking, this is how it would go. I read a book, I learn an exercise, I get a coloring book or a journal, or I do a meditation. And then things get hard, and then my body wants to freak out because I'm remembering the things that suck, and then I shut it down. And it wasn't until this hike in 2018 on like day 3 or 4 where I was going up this it's really tall, 1,600 feet, let's be honest. But the grade was like straight up. So I was like, I'm just gonna hike it out. Because now I had somewhere to put that energy. That was the like mechanism of hiking my feelings. Now I can just rage stomp up this mountain. So I'm like, I'm too fat. I'm not too fat. I'm banging body. It's fine. And then I'm like, too old? Compared to what? I interviewed a lady for my podcast. She's 102 years old. She's like, I didn't start listening to my voice until I was 90. And here I am hiking this mountain. I'm like 33. She's like, you got the rest of your long ass life to live this way. How cool is that? So I'm stomping. You're too fat. No, I'm not. It's like reframing everything. Because I also, sidebar, this is how storytelling with Sydney goes. One time I went to this women's entrepreneurship course, this empowerment journey, and the facilitator was like, so those negative thoughts, they're like red balloons, and if you just let them go, they go away. It's that easy. And I was like, on what planet? So I'm like visualizing, I got a balloon, I'm really fat, here's the balloon. Why is the balloon hitting me in the head? like, I don't get it. What is happening? So I was like, okay, what's my version of the red balloon? I was like, I'm just going to stomp up the mountain. Okay, this is freaking great. So I get to the top of the mountain. I've got this long list. I'm not going to read it to you because this is what usually makes people cry, and the crying's going to come, so don't worry about it. So I go through this list of all the things, think of all the things, the nasty things you tell yourself, everything that one really mean girl in middle school told you, or boy, whatever, and you just shut it down. So I get to the top of this thing and I'm like, whew, Have you ever gotten to the top of a mountain and you feel so good, like your body's on fire? And it's not because there's a storm coming and like you might get electrocuted, but like legit, just like electric with energy, and like the weight is lifted and you're like up here. So I'm up there and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what's going on here, but like, when was the last time I felt this good? When was the last time I felt this capable? Also, like, I don't have a job. I got nothing lined up. Why am I so confident in the direction that my life is going? When was the last time I felt this? I'm like, when? So then I go down. What goes up must come down, as we learned today. We thought it was this. It was not. Cute on the mapping. So I get up. So I'm coming down. And it's that like, if you ever hiked on like shale, the real slippery and you're like, this is so steep that I'm like taking it sideways, right? You asked for dancing, it's coming. I'm like this, right? That's all I got. And then like I almost slipped because I pick up to my head to look at where Barry's at. I'm like, where's Barry? He's always in front of me. I look at his butt the whole time we're hiking. So I'm like, it's a good butt too. You're welcome. So I'm sliding. Yeah, for Barry's butt! I will remember that for the rest of my life. So we're going down the hill, right? Like and then I like almost lose my step and I plant my feet and I dig in my poles. I'm like, not today, Williams. You're not log rolling down this mountain. You get your shit together. I take a deep breath. And then universal 2x4 hits me in the face. I'm like, oh, the last time I felt this good was right before I was raped 12 years ago. And in that moment, I wasn't scared. I wasn't sad. I felt free because for the first time in the 12 years that since that happened, I understood every decision I've ever made, everything that ever felt out of character for me, all the life choices, good, bad, ugly, or indifferent, they all came into focus. That was why I had been eating and drinking my feelings, because for the first 11 years after that, I didn't tell a soul. I didn't tell my friend whose house it happened at, didn't go to the hospital, didn't call the cops, didn't tell my parents, told nobody. Barry was the first person I told. 11 years after it happened. Talk about some heavy ass weight. In my backpack, I truly believe we're all carrying invisible backpacks and they're full of trauma. I call them my trauma pack. It's kind of cute. It's kind of like Cotopaxi, like really brightly colored now. In this pack, I had been taking out the memories of my dead friends, all the heavy pain, and back into it was their memories, the light, the legacy, putting that back in. And then I was like, oh God, body image, all this stuff that's in my head, taking it out, filling it back up with the things that make me feel good about myself and help me remember that I am awesome and worthy and whole. And then at the bottom of that sucker was the sexual assault. And I hadn't processed that. I knew that it had happened. I had told Barry that it had happened, but I didn't understand that that was the thing that caused me to eat and drink my feelings for as long as I did. And so now I'm like, okay, we're going down to our last campsite. It's 8 campsites, Parsons Landing for the TCT people. Baller. 8 campsites on a beach. There's nothing else. It is beautiful. I'm like, I want to walk into this ocean butt ass naked, and I want my husband to be the photographer. I'm like, Barry, I want to walk into the ocean naked. Will you be my photographer? What do you think he said? Hell yeah, I'll be your photographer. Damn right. Would he not? Okay, so. He took one for the team, right? Okay, so we're going down. There's nobody there. So I'm like, okay, this is my moment. Any Little Mermaid fans in the house? You know, Ariel coming up out. You've always wanted that moment. This is what I'm going for. Okay, so I get butt naked. And I was thinking like, I'm going to be modest. I'll have a towel. Towel on the ground, clothes on the ground. The only thing that's not mine that is on this body are my contact lenses. Everything else is gone, stark naked. And I go strutting my stuff. This is cold, okay. So I get to like here, and I'm like, that's not low enough to have my Ariel moment. And then I keep walking out. I'm like a wave comes back and crashes on my ass. I was like, that's far enough. And so I go, okay, God, universe, unicorn, spaghetti monster, whatever you believe in, Mother Nature, it's fine. I don't know what's happening here, but I love it. Whatever I had to do to receive all this, thank you. And I promise I will do whatever I need to do for the rest of my life to continue to have this moment, these moments and these experiences. Please, love, thank you, God. Okay, here we go. And I was like, duck my head, except I hit my butt on the seafloor because I didn't go out far enough. So now my aerial moment's ruined. So I gotta do this like limbo. So like, I'm committed to my aerial moment, please and thank you. So I'm like limbo under the water. I come up, I put my thing out, I get the water out of my eyes. I'm like, sexy goddess. I was like, he's still taking pictures, yeah. So like, and then I was like, oh my God, like I've been hiking my feelings, yeah, sure. Like I've been doing all this stuff and like reframing these thoughts and letting go of these stories and crying my face off. But in this moment, in this water, I'm reclaiming my body from the man who tried to the man who did violate it, and from everybody who ever told me that there was something wrong with it. This is me, and I'm like this, wild and free. I'm out here in the wilderness. Like, it's fine. So it was just like so nice. And then that trail ended, and everything was great. And then we got home. Wow. I mean, that was a ride, right? We did today with Sydney telling stories up and down. So we get there, home. We live in San Diego at the time. It's like a small house, one story, maybe 1,000 square feet, like not huge. But I get in, I take off my backpack. The dogs are tippy-tappy on the floor. Dog paws, wood floor. Love that sound. Miss that sound. Ooh. And I'm like, this house is too big and we got way too much stuff. Barry's like, what? I was like, I want to sell everything we own and move into a van, and I want to be the face of the TCT. Barry's like, you want to be on a billboard? I was like, no, let's get on YouTube real quick. Boop. And then I show him all these van life videos. I was like, I don't know like what this means. Like, I'd love to be like the welcome wagon, like people get off the ferry. I'm like, welcome to the TCT. This will change your life if you let it. And like, it kind of worked, but it didn't. And like the first call that I made once we got back to cell service, before I got home and declared my desire to be a van lifer, was to the Catalina Island Conservancy. I was like, listen, y'all, are you trying to keep this trail a secret? Because one, it's really hard to figure out. It's really hard to book because you got to book a ferry, and then you have to book each campsite, and the last campsite's so hard because there's only 8 spots and you got to do it in reverse. It's this whole thing. Are you trying to make it impossible for people to enjoy this because this trail has changed my life twice? How can I help protect and promote it? And they were like, that's cool. I'm glad you liked it. You want to meet the folks at REI? And I was like, sure, I guess. I'm like, what? Apparently REI sells like a Trans-Catalina Trail adventure, and they needed somebody to come talk about their experience on the trail to sell more tickets. Yay, capitalism. So I was like, at the time, I was like, please validate me. Anyone except myself. Validation. I am a sponge. Give it to me. So REI was like, you tell us your story. So I was like, I tell them the story that I just told you, except not as nice and like coherent. And they're like, great. We'd like to send you on a speaking tour around Southern California. And I was like, yeah. And they're like, what do you need for audiovisual? I was like, this is not a presentation. This is just the story of the hike I did 11 days ago. But if you want someone to talk about how hard it is, I'll give me a map and I can like talk about the elevation and how much it sucks. But if you want me to tell like this story, I've got some really great nature goddess pictures because I told you I was going to be an influencer. I've got all the pictures on the mountain like this and like this. Never my face, mostly my backside, because that's what the internet likes. So you can, yeah, it's good. So I was like, fake it till you make it. What would mediocre people do? Okay, here's what I need. Here's what I can do for you. And they were like, well, we can't pay you. And I was like, that's fine. You make billions of dollars a year. Of course you can't pay me. Let's do it. So we go and we start with like 3 dates at the end of 2018. At the end of that, we're like, okay, this, like, if there's nothing else I do for the rest of my life other than tell this story to whoever I can convince to listen, I want to do that. So we proceeded to sell everything we owned. At the end of 2018, we moved into the van and they were like, hey, you want to do some more dates in 2019? I was like, yeah, you like this, don't you? Those tickets are selling. You're welcome. You can't pay me though. It's fine. So I'm like, yeah, 3 more dates. Validation. Awesome. So we get done with the first of the 3 and they're like, hey, we heard you moved into a van. I was like, sure did. She's a 98 Chevy. She's old enough to buy beer. Let's go. Ready. And they're like, hey, do you want to take this trip around the country? And I was like, yeah, sweet. Like, we still can't pay you. I was like, it's fine, I got credit cards. Not a recommend. I never said I was a financial advisor. Do not do that. Still paying that off, but worth it. So we ended up driving all the way around the country in 2019. We did 140 events that year in every town that we stopped at. I spoke at like 60 different REI stores. I spoke for the women's rowing team at the University of Kansas, which was like the coolest full circle moment ever. I spoke at Becoming an Outdoors Woman in Montana, up near Missoula-ish, I think. And it was awesome. And every town that we stopped in, we hosted a local hike, and we're like, hey, we're going to go hike and talk about feelings if you're interested. Sometimes nobody showed up, and sometimes 200 people showed up. So it was really fun, and we had a great time. And while I was on the road, I wrote the book that is this version of the story that's longer than 45 minutes. And then the pandemic happened, and we were like, oh, cool, we've got all this momentum, we're crushing it. And now we have to figure out how to get people who we've been getting off their devices and outside on their devices inside. Neat. So it was actually the best thing that ever happened to us. So I don't want to spend too much time talking about what Hiking My Feelings does. You've got the card and the thing. Go to hikingmyfeelings.org. I do have another book coming out in March 12th next year. It's like the literal how-to of what we've been teaching for the last 5 years. So the first book that I wrote is just a story. This next book is the best parts of the story with the programming that we've developed as a result of all the things that we've done. So we have a program called Blaze Your Own Trail to Self-Love, which is now a monthly workshop series that teaches people about, it's basically all the things I've ever done, whether I found it or I created it, I mashed it all together and we mix it up with hiking. Let's cheer for some people. Yay, people! Yeah.
Now you're comfortable. Meanwhile, Ethan's in the chair.
Yeah. Woo! And then I'll wrap it up and then we can cheer a lot. So the last thing I wanted to do, actually I'll wait until they get here because they might want to be part of it. Yay! Actually, can we all just go make like a tunnel for these people? Will you guys make a tunnel with me? Okay. We're making a tunnel. We're making a tunnel. We're making a tunnel.
Let's go.
Is that the end of everybody?
I think so.
Okay. Yay! Okay. Circle up. Circle up. Yeah, let's circle up. Wow, look at this. Okay, so to wrap up the talk, hiking saved my life. We got that part? Okay, great. Next, so there's a really cool thing that I figured out, and I kind of wanted to like try a little thing. So like humor me, please. So Hercules is the format we're doing. Does anybody know Hercules' story? Ish, the Greek one. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like the Disney film. Yes. Okay. So if you're not familiar, he had some stuff happen. He had to do these 12 things, and he didn't do it alone. And that's what I want to say here. Like, our journeys are so very unique to us. We always have choices we can make, but we are all born on different foundations from which to make those choices. The choices I make are going to be different from the choices Tomas makes, different from the choices that Jamie makes, different from the choices that Carrie makes, and that Kiki makes, right? And that doesn't mean that we have to be alone. Our healing journeys are unique to us, and it is best done in community. Much like I would say, if you came here for a wilderness experience where you're solo hiking, then you probably didn't read anything about this event. But if you're here for the community, which I would argue that we all are, thank you. Hercules got through his 12 things with the help of his community. We all got through today with the help of this community. And if we're taking any inspiration from the story that I just shared, you guys, everybody has already done this hike. We're doing it again tomorrow. What is possible for you all if the hike itself isn't the hard part? You know that you can do this because you are here, right? Okay. Now the thing I want to try, and please don't make me be the only one chanting this. Can we just start chanting Hercules? Please? Hercules! 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 Woo! Okay. And the last thing I want to say, thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for the opportunity to share my story. What happened?
Finish.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to share my story. Thank you for being part of my healing journey. If at any point you have any questions, if like something resonated with you and you don't want to talk about it in front of everybody else, I am here for the rest of the weekend. I lead the sunrise squad, so if anybody wants to get up early, if you need an excuse to get going, we got here like before noon today. So you could have that experience tomorrow and then just relax in the poop field for as long as you want.